Well, good morning, everybody, and we've made it to Friday, the 20th of November, and we are, as you should know, continuing to work our way through the 11th chapter of Luke's Gospel. Today, I've gone back and forth and getting ready for this morning about taking the rest of the whole chapter in one big chunk or breaking it in two, and I finally ultimately decided here just this morning that I would just look at chapter 11, verses 42 to 44. We'll finish the chapter tomorrow for Saturday. So we'll be looking at 45 to 54 tomorrow, taking a bigger bite. So we're just going to, and all three of these are taking place in the same place. Remember, yesterday Jesus has been invited to the home of the Pharisee, and he sat down to eat, and the Pharisees questioned him about his habits of his hand washing practices, and he got after them a little bit, calling them full of greed and wickedness and fools. What a wonderful house guest, huh? So at any rate, we're going to continue on with that. After calling them wicked and fools and greedy, he's going to put woes upon them. So let's take a look at that. Again, we are in chapter 11. We're going to look at just verses 42 to 44. So just 3 verses this morning. But woe to you, Pharisees, for you tithe mint and rue and herbs of all kinds, and neglect justice and the love of God. It is these you ought to have practiced without neglecting the others. Woe to you, Pharisees, for you love to have the seat of honor in the synagogues and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces. Woe to you, for you are like unmarked graves, and people walk over them without realizing it. Okay. It's like, what's up with the mint and the rue? Rue is another, it's like a garnish or a flavoring that they use apparently in that part of the world. I'm not familiar with rue, but then again, I'm not a cook. My wife might be very familiar with it. I didn't ask her. I'll have to ask her when I get back over to the house. Do you know what rue is? And herbs of all kinds. So the point there is that they are so focused on tithing. Remember, tithing, the giving 10%. So they're going to give even 10% of every little silly thing in the garden. Bunch up. Oh, and I'm tithing. Here's my mint, and here's my rue, and here's my this, and here's my that, and you got all of these so focused on making sure that they've got 10% of everything, all the little details, checking all the boxes, as you might say. But then they neglect the justice and love of God. So you're focused on all the little things, and the important things are kind of sliding, as they say. And it may not be that this is a malicious thing. I mean, we can look at this as our own lives. We can get so focused on the details, right? And we can even do that in worship. We're just so focused on all of the ritual and all of that. And we're disciples and Baptists, so we're low church, so we don't have a lot of pomp and circumstance. But you could get so focused on on all of the smells and bells is what we call it in the high church worship services, which sometimes that's kind of the smells and bells sometimes is kind of interesting. Something we don't do again in our low church worship, but the high church things. So you got so focused in that, and you forget about what you're there for is to worship God, and that was part of the point of some of the early Protestant movement, especially the movement, the Stone Campbell movement was definitely kind of against that whole idea. Of course, also the idea of denominations, which then the disciples became a denomination. So what's up with that? Anyway, it's sometimes, again, it's not necessarily our fault. Sometimes we just get so wrapped up in things, and it's more of a smack alongside the head. Refocus. Think about what you're doing. Sometimes in life we really need to do that. We start chasing after something, and we forget what it was about. We get so focused on all the details of a soup supper or something like that, and arguing about what type of this or what type of that, and we forget that we're doing that. Why are we doing that? We're doing it as a ministry of the church and all of that, and to help the ministry of the church and as a witness. And so we've got to keep all of that in mind. So I think that that's definitely one of those, as simple as that may sound, verse 42, that's definitely that's one of those finger pointing verses if you really think about it. 43, woe to you Pharisees, for you love to have the seat of honor in the synagogues and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces. And then 44, woe to you, for you are like unmarked graves and people walk over them without realizing it. We all strive our egos, I should say, strive for this, the seats of honor and wanting to be, we all think more highly of ourselves than we should. And here the Pharisees are wanting, that was their goal, is to be thought highly of, okay? And they want to be greeted with respect in the marketplace, and it's all about that pomp and circumstance. And that's one of the reasons why I don't really, I don't like the trappings of perhaps the ministry. Don't dress like a normal pastor, do I? Not very often. It's because that's not what it's about. And this would be one of those verses. But he goes on and not only is he pointing out that they want that honor and that they want their ego stroked, but then he points out in 44, woe to you, for you are like unmarked graves and people walk over them without realizing it. Now, one of the things about Judaism is if you step on a grave, you are unclean, and you're going to go through all that ritual of getting clean again. And so stepping on an unmarked grave is not something you want to do, because you go, oh my gosh, I stepped on a grave. And the point is that if you don't know it's there, guess what? You're still unclean as far as they understand in the eyes of God. You just don't know that you're unclean, and that's a problem. You go walking into the temple and somebody goes, hey, I saw you walking through that field, and there's graves in that field. Did you know that? It's like, it's a problem for me, because now I can't go in the temple. I got to go through all this ritual of sacrifice and all of that to get back to being right with God. So he's relating the Pharisees to unmarked graves. You're as dangerous to someone's salvation as an unmarked grave. That's harsh. No two ways around it. That's harsh. And one of those things that would get your attention. It's like, what do you mean, Jesus? Holy smokes! So it's compiling. Not only are you ego, but your death. And I'm going to leave you to sit there with that. We're going to finish that thought tomorrow. To be continued. One of those devotions today. Because again, yesterday, today, tomorrow, all is one dialogue. It's all one conversation around the dinner table. What a lovely conversation around the dinner table. Thank you for coming over as a dinner guest, Jesus. Really appreciate that. So we'll talk more about this tomorrow. But try to remember what we've talked about with the tithing of the and doing all all of the little details and getting focused on the details and forgetting the big picture. And hear about are we really are we really all that, or are we really bringing someone down, so to say? I'll let you go till tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, a blessed day. Enjoy. The sun is out at the moment, and I think it looks like we are going to have actually decent weather for next week for Thanksgiving. So praise be to God for that. So we'll see you tomorrow morning. Also, don't forget, tonight, 9 p.m., we'll be doing the prayer vigil in the sanctuary again. All right? See you later. Have a blessed day. And as always, be a blessing to someone today. Bye now.